I believe they're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man. I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it.
Oh, nice.
Welcome to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your host. He is the Stallion. I am the Enforcer. And we are welcoming you back to yet another week of us doing our thing. I want to just apologize out of the gate if I sound nasally or if I sound bad. It's a high pollen concentration and I'm in the midst of an allergy attack. So, I'm sorry. Now, we have something to talk about today. We're gonna, if you're not familiar with our show, here's what we do. We give our opinions on the topics in professional wrestling that are hot. We talk about Raw, we talk about SmackDown, we talk about NXT, we talk about House of Hardcore, we talk about AWA,
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor. We talk about NWA, we talk about Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Jinder Mahal's physique, I think.
We definitely talk about Jinder Mahal's physique. We give our predictions for upcoming events. We give our recap for events. We talk about what's going on TV. Any kind of hot, what are they called? Hot button topics? Is that a word?
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's fair. And the reason why we are giving you an overview of what we do on our show, the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast, is because we are now the official podcast of ProWrestling.com. That's a pretty big accomplishment. Do you think we are now the official podcast of ProWrestling.com because they have no idea what we look like?
That's probably like 85 to 90% of it, I would say, if I was going to ballpark it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm never going to show my face, and I'm going to steal your gimmick, and I'm going to wear a lucha mask everywhere I go.
You should. It's helped me in a lot of situations. I'll just leave it at that. I won't give any details.
For our new listeners, can you give me an example of when wearing a lucha mask helped you in a situation?
Well, I was on I-95 one time. No, I don't have any. There's no...
How about a driver's license photo?
Probably blind dates, I feel like.
Okay.
Several blind dates that I went on where I felt I was more successful with my entire face covered, except for the eye holes, than if I was, unmasked.
Can I now call you the Great Josuke?
I wouldn't use the word great. That's probably not a good word to describe me in any capacity.
Okay.
You can just call me, which is Josuke.
Like the Great Sasuke?
Or you can just call me Putz. Either way, I think is fine. So.
I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to refer to you as Putz, but I am going to refer to you as the Stallion. New people are probably sitting there listening. The guy's burying his own physique and his own looks. Why are we calling you the Stallion? Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever took a look at this kid, you would say, you look at him and you say, it's 1985 Tully Blanchard. And sure enough, Tully Blanchard's nickname in the mid-'80s was the Midnight Stallion. And here we are. That might be the first time we've ever discussed why on this podcast. They call me the Enforcer because I look like Frankie Stacchino from Boy Meets World.
That's not...
That's true.
No, it's an Arn Anderson reference, obviously, for those longtime wrestling fans out there. Obviously, you're a big fan of Arn Anderson. You have legitimate tough guy traits and skills. I think that's also...
I have a beard. That's all I got.
You've been known to choke people out when needed. So I think that kind of goes with the whole enforcer gimmick that you've been rocking here for a while. So
it's very true. In my old gym, we used to call the jiu-jitsu instructor the Nature Boy. And every time a new kid would come to the gym and he thought he was, tough cookies, he'd look at me, he'd be like, double A, and he'd have me roll with the new guy and train with the new guy. So, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm older, fatter, uglier, shorter, less attractive now than I was then. But
well, the good news is you didn't, you legitimately, rolled with the guy, worked with him right to see if he had it, whatever, how good he was. He didn't JBL the guy into just quitting whatever he was doing.
No, I didn't bully the guy beyond repair only to get knocked out by a 162-pound man with a right hand.
Yeah. So,
I haven't been JBL'd. Now I wanted to talk to you. Apologize. See, the allergies are kicking in. This week's episode, we're going to talk about WWE's Backlash this Sunday. We're going to talk about NXT Takeover on Saturday. We're going to talk about House of Hardcore on Friday. Can we start off, because we're so topical, can we start off talking about the Randy Orton situation?
Sure. We can certainly, the Randy Orton / Rip Rogers /
Who
Will
in
Ospreay.
The sack is Rip Rogers.
I think you're underestimating Rip Rogers.
I will sit here while you detail me what Rip Rogers has done.
I think he's a former pro wrestler that's maybe trained some folks as well. Probably an old school guy based off of what little I know about Rip Rogers. I guess that's the best.
That's fair. So long story short, a wrestler had tweeted, I'm not going to go over the whole thing, Rip Rogers, somebody, I guess you write something down in Microsoft Note on the iPad or in the notepad, and then you take a picture of it to get around the whole 160 characters thing, right? So pretty much this guy said, he was burying the indie style. He's like, dive, strong style, dive. And he's saying what the matches are like, and everybody handshakes, and that's not wrestling, and they're ruining wrestling. They're ruining wrestling, and this is from an indie wrestler himself to Rip Rogers, and Rip Rogers retweeted it and agreed with him. Now, in doing so, he kind of alienated a lot of people in the business. I know they mentioned he buried Kenny Omega. He buried him without saying his name. He said something about wrestling a 9-year-old girl, which Kenny Omega did for I forget the promotion. It was not Dragon Gate.
I don't know. I don't think you want me commenting on that, so I'm going to leave that alone.
The Young Bucks super kicked a 5-year-old girl.
I think that was at request, though, right? Doesn't somebody request that?
Well, I don't think Kenny Omega was shooting on a 9-year-old girl.
I don't know how that came to pass.
But
real quick, Rip Rogers, by the way, is the head trainer at OVW currently, and he's trained a couple of wrestlers, most notably Deonna Purrazzo, Ryan Nemeth, who I think is the brother of Dolph Ziggler, and things of that nature. That's all. And he's retired. Obviously, he used to wrestle in WCW. That's a very, very brief background of Rip Rogers. So
okay, he wrestled for Jim Crockett. Okay. So they said how, you shouldn't have to do 20 super kicks in a match and do crotch chops and things of this nature. And the independent wrestling style is, quote unquote, killing the business. Okay. Now this is a direct shot at guys like a Will Ospreay, guys like a Ricochet, guys like even a John Morrison, and because they're a more athletic style and selling isn't as prevalent now in professional wrestling. Is that a statement you would agree with?
I guess, yeah. I mean, if there's different styles, obviously, and especially these days with independent wrestling and the different, I don't know, a lot of the stuff that happens there that maybe doesn't happen in the mainstream promotions and the style and stuff like that. So certainly there's a difference in how guys wrestle today and how matches are put on outside of WWE and some of the mainstream promotions. So I guess it's just a matter of, an old school guy who doesn't see the benefit or maybe feels like it's a detriment to the wrestling business for wrestlers and matches to, be performed that way. Everyone's got different opinions on things and maybe what their preferences are as far as match style and how guys wrestle, whether it's mat wrestling, chain wrestling, submission style wrestling, high flying, stuff like that. I don't know. I can't... Personally, I don't, like, just for me, I think the fact that there's a variety is a good thing, right? You can, if you want to watch a match that's maybe more submission based, then maybe you go watch a match from, Evolve or something, or maybe some of the wrestlers in New Japan or something like that, depending on who it is. And,
English style too. That's what I think of.
Yeah, so there's stuff like that out there, and then if you want to watch a more high-flying style, then you can watch some more independent type stuff. Like you can watch PWG matches, or some of the guys in ROH do high-flying stuff. And Lucha Underground. Yeah, so there's things like that. And then, obviously, so it's just I don't see a harm to those different styles, and I don't know that independent wrestling has enough of a following or enough of a distribution across like the world, other than like YouTube and like DVDs, to say that it's killing the business, because I'm sure like 75% of fans that watch WWE have probably never watched a Ring of Honor match or PWG or things like that. So I don't know. I think it's probably a stretch to say that, if I was just, I guess, reacting to what the whole thing is about.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I'm just gonna read something that Randy Orton wrote. Sorry to the indie marks, indie guys, and old timers who do dives. Took offense. I think Randy was drunk when he wrote this, so I'm reading it word for word. Just having a good time over a few drinks in Denmark, closing the SmackDown Live tour, while beating Raw and making over $5 million in the last 11 shows. Now I know to some that doesn't equate to a standing room only crowd of 150 people paying $8 at an armory somewhere, but in the big boy world, that's called putting asses in seats. So enjoy your flips, dives, and 20 super kicks per match, to each their own. I will go dive back into my 13th title run and get ready to flip when my bank statement comes this month. ... Headlock. Now, I'm going to give my opinions on this real quick. Also, Randy had a back and forth with Bubba Ray Dudley. They had some heat, and Bubba said something along the lines of dive, and he posted a picture of himself diving on the Bullet Club, I guess, from a little while ago. And Randy said, there's a difference between a young, hungry talent diving and an old, out-of-shape vet falling. Now, here's my problem. I'm going to say a couple things real quick. First, I think Randy can talk about the fans. I mean, do they necessarily pay your salaries? Not directly, but I don't think it's ever the best move for the face and the champion of a company and the face to be talking about the fans like that. But I think there's a big, disconnect, and it's disrespectful to be talking about the veterans who are wrestling in quote-unquote indie promotions. Now, Randy, because his last name is Orton, will never have to wrestle in the independent scene. He also did not have to come up in the independent scene, and he was the youngest WWE champion, or WWF champion at that time, maybe? WWF?
World Heavyweight Champion.
World Heavyweight Champion, sorry. In the world at 22, maybe? I don't know how old he was.
It was around 22, 23, I think.
I'll tell you this right now. Nepotism is alive and well, and Randy Orton would not have been in the WWE at that age if he wasn't the son of Cowboy Bob Orton. That's just facts. Not saying he's not a great worker, he's not a great wrestler, but he would not have had that leg up. So for him to knock these guys on the independent scene doing their thing, trying to get themselves over, trying to make a name for themselves, I think that's inappropriate, and I think it's disrespectful. And on top of that, I think there's a certain air of jealousy, because a lot of these guys in WWE are compared to the independent guys, quotes around that, the independent guys, and that working style. And the WWE has been a somewhat watered-down product for a long time, which is why NXT has been doing so well, because NXT is incorporating more of that traditional, competitive, professional wrestling aspect. I'm sure there's an air of resentment, too. I'm sure Randy resents guys like a Kevin Owens, like a Seth Rollins, like a Samoa Joe, because they have that, I guess, the cool guy, independent mystique behind them, and Randy never had that, So I think he's kind of barking up the wrong tree. I can understand if he has a problem with the style, that's fine, but don't take it out on the guys doing that, because that's the way, that's the way wrestling is progressing. I mean, back in the day, every match from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s was headlock, get a hold, work, heels and faces, they work the same formula over and over and over, and it wasn't until I would say, I don't want to say ECW was the difference maker, but it wasn't until the early 90s when that style started changing. I mean, when was the first time you saw a face versus face match besides Hogan versus Warrior?
That was probably the first time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, seriously. And then that became more prevalent. And then now the problem in wrestling is like the bad guys, there's no real heels anymore. And so the landscape is changing, the things are changing, but also what's changing is the exposure. There's so much professional wrestling on. It's tough to stand out. And I didn't love Will Ospreay versus Ricochet last year. You saw that match, right?
Yes.
You liked it. Did you love it, or did you like it? You thought it was a good match?
No, it was good. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite match of all time or anything like that.
Right, yeah. I can understand having a problem with the lack of selling in certain spots. Like, for example, Will Ospreay, I'm a big fan of a lot of he does, but, over the weekend, he hit a springboard shooting star press to the outside, completely no-sold it, rolled Jay White into the ring and did a springboard cutter. Like that, to me, you got to slow down a little bit. You got to sell, the move you just did. And I hear you. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a big part, and a lot of people can work on that. But what also really bothers me is the stereotype. How, you stereotype all quote-unquote indie guys into that, into the super kicks and stuff like that. You're like Adam Cole. Adam Cole's not a dive guy. He's probably the best. Fair to say he's one of the best quote-unquote indie guys out there right now.
Right.
He's not a dive guy. He's not a dive over the top rope 400 times, no sell kind of guy. And he did a fantastic job of getting himself over, which is probably why he's going to NXT right now.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's just different styles. I mean, when you like the cruiserweights in WCW in the mid to late 90s are probably similar to some of that indie style stuff that's going on now, like with the Ospreay and Ricochet and things of that nature, right? Like, it's just it's a lot of high spots and big dives and not a lot of selling and drama and intermatch storyline. It's just not what it is. But if you look at WCW shows back from that time, and it's not the best example because their main events weren't the greatest during that period of time because the guys that they had were kind of on in age and
finger poke of doom.
Yeah, Hogan and stuff like that wasn't like an elite worker at any real point, but he wasn't in his best at that time. But like, you can watch a show for WCW and you'd get a cruiserweight match at some point. You'd get a tag team division match. You might get a TV title or a U.S. title match with guys like Guerrero or Benoit or Malenko or Jericho and stuff like that. They're working their style. And then you'd have the main event guys that are doing their thing there. So there's different stuff up and down the card that you can watch and just kind of get a different feel for the action. So I don't think it's, to lump everybody in, right, like some of these guys may be doing, like Orton or whomever is, they're indie wrestlers and they work this one style. That's not true, and he probably just doesn't, he probably has never really seen a lot of indie wrestling, or at least not the current stuff. I'm sure he doesn't take his time to do that because he's got other stuff to worry about or care about, and that's fine. So he's really not in a position probably to be making those types of claims. So it's a lot of stuff that stuff gets blown out of proportion. He kind of mouthed off that he shouldn't have, and other guys like to react to it to probably just bring attention to themselves, like Bully Ray and whoever else was kind of flying back at him.
I think Bully Ray kind of made light of it because he's he's a grizzled vet and he was jumping off the top rope, and I think some people think that just because the veterans are working the indie shows, it's because they have to and they don't have any money. Where a guy like Bully Ray, I'm almost 99% sure he's set for life. He doesn't have to work a day in his life, and he works the indie shows because he likes them. And that's why he turned down a contract with WWE and Impact to wrestle for Ring of Honor, because that was something he wanted to do. So I don't, I feel like he, put yourself in that, in the locker room. Let's say you're Randy's on SmackDown. So let's say you're Kevin Owens or you're Sami Zayn. How would you take that?
Of what Orton said?
Yeah.
I would ignore it. Probably.
Okay.
I really wouldn't. I mean, honestly, if I was them, I wouldn't care what Randy Orton says about me. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Like, he doesn't have that perspective, of working on independent wrestling shows and all these different things. And guys are just doing different stuff these days to try to get themselves over and noticed. So, that works. Guys will get signed by WWE if that's a lot of their ultimate goals for a lot of these guys, and they get signed and they don't work the same style when they get there. I'm sure they're told and coached to do different things when they're in NXT and eventually the main roster, and they change and they adapt. Some of it works out better for certain guys than others. But I mean, if Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn or whoever is in the locker room, and I hear Randy Orton mouthing off when he's drunk or posting something on Twitter, like it just doesn't really. I wouldn't take too much of it because those guys are doing, they're successful in their own right, and Orton's been around a long time with the company, and that's why he has had the championship like 13 times. He won his first world championship in 2004. So we're talking 13 years in the business, and he's won 13 world championships. I mean, Kevin Owens has been up on the main roster for 2 years, and he's been NXT champion, he's been Universal champion, he's been Intercontinental champion, and US champion already in 2 years he's been up. So he's doing just as fine in his own right on the main roster. So if I was him, I wouldn't really worry about anything that Orton says because he's going to be around probably longer, after Orton leaves.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to what JBL was saying on that Bringing to the Table, where he said it's not a badge of honor to work 10 years in the independent scene. I think that's the kind of mindset from a lot of the I don't want to say the jocks, but a lot of the higher ups in WWE, maybe the wrestlers, not from the not the office, but personally, I think it is because you really hone your craft there, and maybe you become who you are, and it's tougher to work to get yourself over than it is to have a name and get yourself over. So yeah. I think it's an interesting conversation, and I wonder what's going to happen. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Will Ospreay is making a killing on those T-shirts. He has the ... dive T-shirt, which, I mean, good for him, man. If he can make money off of Randy Orton, that good for him. Man. Whatever these guys have to do to get over and just keep doing their doing and just keep reinventing the wheel. I mean, there's only so much you could do in pro wrestling. ECW was beat up for doing their hardcore stuff in the early 90s, and 3 years later it shows up in WWE TV, and it's called the Attitude Era. And it's just. It's a flash in the pan. You got to change with the times, and right now, the Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan look, that's not in so much, despite Vince McMahon's best efforts. That's not really what's selling out arenas. And judging by the pictures of SmackDown, nothing is selling out arenas over there.
By the way, I thought about a few different face versus face matches while this conversation was going on. Remember. Bret versus Piper, WrestleMania 8.
Okay.
Bret versus Bulldog, SummerSlam 92.
Okay.
And Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior is also SummerSlam 92. So that's maybe 2 years later.
Wasn't Macho a heel at that point because he had Cecil Sherry?
No, that was 90. That was after he retired and came back.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm sorry, 91. I was thinking of Yep.
Anyway, that's all I got about that.
That's how your brain works. Yeah, you need.
As we're sitting here talking about that, I was trying to think of other things from that era. Or around that time, where it was good guy versus good guy, and those are the next ones. There might have been something from '91 that I missed. I'm just trying to remember, and I can't really recall it. So '92, those few matches happened at WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So those are 2 back-to-back pay-per-views where they came up. But anyway, that's pretty much that. So do you want to segue into Backlash on Sunday?
Do you want to talk NXT first, or do you want to talk Backlash?
You want to go chronologically?
I think that's a good idea. But before we get to any sort of predictions, we are here once again to remind you that the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by the Damage 365 Radio Network.
This is former WWE superstar Damian Sandow, now known as Aaron Stevens, and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio. Keep it tuned. You're welcome.
Again, the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. Us, the official wrestling podcast of ProWrestling.com. You could find us on Facebook.com/AllNightLongWP, at AllNightLongWP, on Twitter, on Instagram, and now on ProWrestling.com. NXT Takeover Chicago, Saturday night. Last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a number one contenders match for the NXT heavyweight title. It was Hideo Itami versus Roderick Strong in a fantastic match. Hideo Itami got the win in his return. And main event's going to be Rude versus Hideo Itami. The rest of the card's going to look like this. Asuka versus Ruby Riott versus Nikki Cross. Was supposed to have Ember Moon involved in that match as well. Unfortunately, she got hurt. The Authors of Pain versus DIY in a ladder match for the NXT Tag title. Tyler Bate, the UK champ, versus Pete Dunne, and Roderick Strong versus Eric Young. That must have just gotten added, that last one.
Yeah, it must be pretty recent. I mean, I haven't seen NXT is airing, or just aired an hour ago, so I didn't get to watch that yet. I don't know if that was announced maybe tonight, but that was recently announced because, like you said, Roddy just fought Itami on last week's show.
Yep.
So.
All right, let's start from the bottom, work our way up. First match, Roderick Strong versus EY. Interesting booking. I'd have to, I really can't see either guy benefiting from a loss here. Roddy just had a hard-fought match against Adami where he took the loss clean. So I think you got to give Roderick the win here and have him kind of outsmart Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane on the outside and get the win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the right thing to do. Hopefully that is what they do. I know they went for a long while with Sanity beating Ty Dillinger at every turn, for Dillinger to finally win a cage match against Young on NXT a few weeks ago before he went up to the main, or even after he went to the main roster, but it was his last match in NXT. So I hope they don't continue that same pattern here, because I don't think continuously beating Roddy is the way to go. It seemed like they were trying to build him up with those video packages about his life and his all his stuff that went on with him in his career. So I think that the right thing to do would be to give Roderick Strong the win. So I'll predict that here.
Okay, next up, Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne for the WWE UK title. Why don't you lead this one off? Because I'm really having... Well, actually, let me ask you this. Friday afternoon, there's going to be a UK special, correct?
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with this match? Do we know?
Well, those I think matches were taped a couple weeks ago when they were on tour out there.
Okay.
I don't know that I read all the spoilers for those, so there may be some angles in that led up to this match. I know I've seen other stuff and previous to that where Pete Dunne was essentially anointed as the first main challenger for Bate. I know Bate defended his title once or twice since he won it in the UK tournament. So I think they've been kind of building with Pete Dunne as the top heel challenger for Bate since the tournament actually happened a few months ago. As far as the match itself, I don't know much about... Let me rephrase that. I don't know that there's a lot more for Bate to accomplish as the champion. If he might... I can see... I think he's going to lose the title to Dunne. Whether it happens here or not, I guess if they want to stretch it out for another pay-per-view, they're welcome to do that. I don't think they will. I'll say that Dunne will win the title from Bate, and then maybe they'll kind of have Bate in the chase mode to try to get it back from Pete Dunne at the next, whatever couple of UK shows or whatever the next takeover show might be.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you completely on this one, and I feel like it's rough to say Tyler Bate's got to lose the title, but they haven't. It's tough. You win the championship, and then you're not seen on TV for like 2 months now. So I just think Pete Dunne's got he's the guy right now to carry. He's a great heel. He comes off as a great douche. I'll be honest with you, and people want to boo him. So I think the chase. I couldn't think of the word. The chase for Tyler Bate. If they continue the UK programming, would help him get over and put a little more emotion into it. So I think Pete Dunne takes title too. Now we're looking at the Authors of Pain versus DIY. This match is going to be a ladder match, and this is a tough one to predict too. I'm going to say well, here's how I look at it. If the Authors of Pain win, Gargano and Ciampa are going to the main roster. If they lose, DIY is staying right where they are. I'm gonna say DIY gets the win in a fantastic match, but and they've lost to the Authors of Pain quite a few times now. So I think if they're not going to the main roster, this is the right move. So I'm going with DIY.
Okay, I'm gonna go Authors of Pain. I think that the whole idea behind Authors of Pain is that they're supposed to be this dominant tag team. They won the championships earlier in the year, retained them at the last Takeover special WrestleMania weekend against DIY and the Revival in an elimination match, which is also a very good match. I think that the stipulation is there to make people buy into the fact that the DIY can win or have a better chance at winning. The Authors of Pain wouldn't have to take a pin. But I think the Authors of Pain are going to retain. I don't know what the plans are for DIY, if they're going to stay together as a team, if they're going to split up, if they're going to go to a main roster type situation. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. But I think Authors of Pain are going to win. I think they're building up Heavy Machinery as a team for a shot at Authors of Pain, maybe the next feud for them, which I think kind of a big man team versus big man team match, which should be pretty cool. So I'm going to say Authors of Pain will retain the championships here.
Okay. Asuka versus Ruby Riott versus Nikki Cross. This is another it's another match where, you got to wonder how much longer Asuka's going to stay in NXT. Do you think she'll be there through SummerSlam?
I would say that she will be there through SummerSlam, yes.
Really? Okay.
Well, I don't know when the next TakeOver special is, right? So this is in May. I don't know if they have another one between now and SummerSlam. But not that I want to jump the gun on my prediction, but I think she's going to retain it here. And I would think that I think that the idea is that she's going to lose it to Ember Moon at some point. I don't know when that was going to be, if that was going to be on this show in the 4-way or not, but I think that she's going to lose it to Ember Moon eventually when she recovers from her injury. So I think that, and Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross kind of have their own side feud happening. So I think that Asuka will retain the championship here and eventually go on to face Ember Moon, and maybe that'll be SummerSlam weekend. I don't know, whenever the next TakeOver special is.
Well, I think if they're going to have Asuka lose the title, this might be the time to do it because she doesn't have to get pinned in this triple threat match. I'm going to say I'm going to say Nikki Cross gets the win. I think she's going to pin Ruby Riott. I think you might have some interference from the rest of Sanity. But Nikki Cross gets a pin on Ruby Riott, and Asuka's no longer your champion. But she doesn't lose. She doesn't get pinned. So
see, I think the whole thing with that, though, is she's had this long title reign, right, for over a year, and she hasn't been defeated. So that, I think the whole purpose of the title reign now should be that somebody beats her, you know what I mean, to get that rub from her being a champion for so long and being undefeated for so long. So I think if they did it in such a way where they take it off her in a multi-person match, it almost kind of kills the whole momentum of what she's got going, because then nobody benefits really from, if Nikki Cross pins Ruby Riott or vice versa, everyone's going to be like, oh, all right, but they didn't beat Asuka, so it's what, you know what I mean? I think that whoever wins the title, whether it's in this match or a future match, that Asuka needs to be defeated so that somebody can benefit from that and keeps the championship strong.
See, to me, that's why I think they would do that, only to protect her, because that could be the storyline. You got the title, but you didn't beat Asuka. She's undefeated. She's never been pinned, and then you could do something. But I mean, you got a triple threat match, which means there's no DQ, and you have all of Sanity. I think if I agree with you, but I just don't see anybody strong enough to actually beat Asuka. There's nobody to me that screams, I'm going to, pinning Asuka is going to make me a main eventer. There's nobody right now that I think is really strong enough to beat her. So, I mean, unless they just decide to keep title on her, which they probably will do. But I just think this might open up some, loopholes for them in the future as maybe an escape plan if they do want to bring up Asuka. Or who knows, maybe she loses the title and she shows up on Sunday night. Anything's possible. That leaves the main event. Bobby Roode versus Hideo Itami for the NXT title. Give me your thoughts, pal.
I mean, listen, Itami has had several chances to, kind of make a name for himself and establish himself in NXT. He's unfortunately gotten hurt a few times. Hasn't really connected with the fans as much as I think they had hoped. Now I think he's doing a little better just because he's been using the GTS as his finisher. I think people kind of pop for that.
And he looks great in a suit. Man, he's a good-looking man in a suit, buddy.
But I don't think that this is, the right spot for Roode to lose it. This seems like a placeholder feud for Roode in between maybe his next big feud, whatever that's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be Roderick Strong or maybe Drew McIntyre. Those would be the guys I would suspect. This just seems like a placeholder to kind of keep things moving for him and give him another victory. So I'm going to say that Roode will retain on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Itami is, he's a great wrestler, he's a great worker, but he doesn't have enough behind him right now to take the title from Bobby Roode. And I completely forgot about McIntyre. I'm surprised he's not on the card, to be honest with you. I think actually he might be. I think they might add him versus Blake.
They were setting something like that up. Right now, it doesn't list it, but yeah, maybe they will add that. And if they do, I'm assuming that he's just going to win because I don't.
Yeah, and he should. Just like, and there's also nothing on there for Aleister Black either, which is interesting.
Aleister Black, he was on Main Event like 2 weeks ago when they were in England, which is kind of weird. But
now, another question for you: will Adam Cole be in the audience on Saturday night?
That's a good question. I don't know. A lot of people have been speculating on that. I mean, he hasn't led on to anything as far as that. I mean, it would be cool if he did show up, I don't know if he's got any other bookings this weekend where I think like Friday night he's got a PWG, which is in California. So I could definitely see him being there. I would like to see him there, but I'm going to say he won't be there. And maybe, by SummerSlam time or something like that, he'll be on board. That's my guess.
Okay. So that's it right now for NXT. It looks like another good show on paper. That's going to be the Saturday night special. So that means we are going to hop over onto Sunday night with WWE SmackDown Presents Backlash. And before we get there, we're going to sit here, as always, and I'm going to remind you that we are once again brought to you by the Damage 365 Radio Network.
This is Lanny Poffo, formerly the genius full of glory and renown. You are listening to Damage 365 Radio.
And on top of that, you can find us now at ProWrestling.com, as we are the official podcast of ProWrestling.com, which we are very happy to be. Now, a couple of matches were obviously just announced within the last 2 days for Backlash. So I'm just going to run down the card very quickly. Guessing your pre-show match, you're looking at Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English. From there, you have Luke Harper versus Eric Rowan, Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Dolph Ziggler, Naomi, Charlotte, and Becky versus the Welcoming Committee. That is an atrocious name. Of Natalia, Carmella, and Tamina Snuka. Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles for the U.S. Heavyweight title. The Usos versus Breezango, and Randy Orton versus... Is that right?
Jinder Mahal, man.
Is that right? That's... Randy, I'll be damned. Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE title. You know what this show's missing, Joe?
Roman Reigns, the guy who has lots of sex.
Oh,
Is that not what you were looking for?
No, but yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Well, it's true, darn it.
Yeah, it is.
There's not enough Roman Reigns on this show.
Yeah.
It needs more Big Dog, personally. You know what? Not even personally. The world needs more Big Dog.
I swear to God, I do not need this right now, okay?
First match of the night is Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English. Aiden English's new gimmick is he's a crybaby, it seems like. He sings opera, and the man cries. Ty Dillinger should not be losing. Ty Dillinger wins this match.
Yep, Ty Dillinger wins.
Luke Harper versus Eric Rowan. I have yet to finish watching SmackDown in between the balls that is currently my life. So I hope to finish SmackDown tonight and watch NXT, so maybe I'll understand why this match was made. I know they wrestled last week, and Eric Rowan used his clown mask, I guess. Or no, he went to use his clown mask, and then the ref turned around and he thumbed Harper in the eye and he got the pin. With a very interesting move. It was a reverse body slam, so he had him at a body slam position, and then he kind of went. I can't even explain. I know Jeff Cobb does it, but when Jeff Cobb does it, it's got a lot more force. But it was a good big man match, and I just think this match was a little bit thrown together, and they could have done a lot more with these two. But right now, I'm going to say Eric Rowan gets another win.
I'll go with Harper.
You always have to be different. God,
Eric Rowan stinks, bro.
That is
stinks on ice.
I'm not gonna. I just think you should
Delete.
take that right out. I'm taking that out in post.
It's going right at the top, actually.
Eric Rowan does not stink.
Stinks on ice. That's where we're at with Eric Rowan, all right?
Eric Rowan is better than Randy Orton in the ring.
Well, I'm not debating that. I'm just saying he stinks on ice. That's where I'm going with.
I like his mask, though.
That's cool.
Son of a...
I'll go to, you know what? I'm not even going to. Sami Zayn versus
so who's going to win?
Baron. I said Luke Harper. Oh, did I not say Luke Harper?
No, you said
Luke
Eric
Harper's
Rowan
going to win.
stinks like 5 times.
Okay, well, the intention was that Luke Harper was going to win that match because, by golly, he needs to win. Sami Zayn versus Baron Corbin. They've had a little bit of backstory with these guys. I think Zayn was in a triple threat match for the U.S. title shot and didn't win, and then Corbin, whatever, they got involved, and they've been having a little bit of a feud. Corbin's been attacking him. I don't know. I assume that the purpose of this feud right now is to put Corbin over. So I'm going to say Corbin gets the win.
What the hell, man? You're talking about needing to win? Sami Zayn has to stop losing. He's the best thing going on SmackDown wrestler-wise, and he needs to stop losing, especially to Baron Corbin.
Can we take a step back?
Yeah.
He's the best thing going on SmackDown.
He's the best wrestler on SmackDown, aside from AJ Styles.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Because I make boisterous statements, and it takes me a second to think about it.
I just want to make sure we clip.
Aside from AJ Styles and Randy Orton, I think Sami Zayn's the best wrestler.
Now you're just being facetious.
You're right. AJ Styles is the best wrestler. Randy Orton, boy, he's fun to watch. Snap power slam, diamond cutter. Snap power slam.
Don't forget the chin lock, bro.
Terrible backbreaker. Chin lock. Unmotivated. Terrible tribal tattoos covered with an even more terrible skull sleeve. Sorry, I'm just super bitter.
So who's winning this Sami Zayn Baron Corbin match?
Sami Zayn better freaking win, man. I know Baron Corbin just did the JOB on Thursday.
Yeah.
But, man, when I think Baron Corbin, I'm just... Sami Zayn gets a W.
Okay.
Next.
All right. The in-ring SmackDown debut of Shinsuke Nakamura against Dolph Ziggler. I don't think the outcome is much in doubt. I'll say Nakamura is going to win. I will say I've kind of been mildly entertained by what they've done. I think Ziggler kind of playing the disgruntled veteran type role, feeling underappreciated, and Nakamura getting more attention.
He should tag with Randy Orton.
Yeah.
They could be the no dive guys. Oh, that's a good name.
Well, I think it's been somewhat interesting, I guess, and I'm sure they'll have a good match. Ziggler hasn't really had a lot of direction since the heel turn that he had a few months ago, and the match is obviously just designed to get Nakamura, make him look good, look strong, and get a victory. So I'll say Nakamura.
If you're gonna have a match with somebody to showcase what they're able to do, and Sami Zayn's probably going to lose anyway, they should have done Nakamura versus Zayn on this show. But what do I know? Nakamura's going to win this match. It should be convincing, and he should definitely go. You got to see all the hits, but Ziggler's got to get in some offense because he's no schlep. So Nakamura wins. You're right. There's no question about this one. Naomi, Charlotte, and Becky versus the welcome mat. Natalya, Carmella, and Tamina with Ellsworth. Christ on a cracker. I don't even know. Go on, just take this one from me.
I'll say the faces win. I don't know. The heels seem like they've been going over at every turn in this feud the last few weeks, including Carmella beating Naomi on SmackDown last night. So,
damn it! I just started that match. Spoiler alert!
I'm gonna need you to get up to speed, bro.
I'm gonna need more hours in the day.
Just
okay?
Read the spoilers.
I'm picking up so much dog poop. It's literally encompassing my life.
Well, on that note,
speaking of dog poop,
I'm gonna say. I'll say Naomi, Charlotte, and Becky win just because they haven't won anything in this feud yet.
Yeah, I'm going to say they should win. I'm also going to say you shouldn't put this much talent in one six-man match if you're only going to have one women's match on the card, especially when you have Luke Harper versus Eric Rowan and Ty Dillinger versus Aiden English. You can get rid of one of those matches and put another women's match on the show. I keep hearing rumors it's going to lead to Ellsworth versus Becky Lynch. Is that true?
No, I don't know. I hope not.
She would legit beat him within an inch of his life. I think that'd be good TV. It'd kind of look like Beulah versus Fonzie.
I don't know that they're going to do... I don't know. They've not done an intergender match in a really long time. I don't know.
Yeah, they haven't even done any intergender physicality except for, the accidental... like Stephanie going through, the table and stuff. So I just don't want to see Ellsworth ever again. He would, no more Ellsworth. Unless you have him welcome back Braun in 6 months.
He's underappreciated.
Underappreciated is an understatement. That's good. You know what? Let's talk about the tag match. You want to talk about the tag match?
Sure. The Usos versus the white hot on a roll
A.k.a.
the Fashion Police.
I sense a tiny bit of sarcasm.
No, They've actually got a bunch of wins in a row.
They do. Yeah.
And they've been at least giving them a push. Now, the push is completely out of nowhere, and they turned face without anybody explaining it. But some of the stuff's been entertaining, at least some of the skits they've been doing, the backstage stuff, pretending to be on Law & Order. I like those guys. I think that they're pretty good in the ring. I think they're pretty entertaining. But I don't think they're going to win the tag titles here. Hopefully they have a good match. I'd like to see them have a nice, maybe 10 to 15 minute match that's good. And maybe they'll get another shot at the next SmackDown pay-per-view, but I think the Usos will keep the titles.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on this one. And Tyler Breeze and Fandango can work. Man, these guys are really good wrestlers. They've proven it time and time again. They were getting a minute and a half squashed a minute and a half for the better part of the last 6 months. But the stuff that they're doing with the vignettes, killing me. Absolutely slaying me. These guys are fantastic, and they really did it themselves. I mean, they got themselves over. They got this gimmick over that nobody gave any. I don't think anybody gave any chance to. So, I wouldn't hate to see them with the tag titles at some point, but I just don't think now is the move. Where's American Alpha?
No idea. Nowhere to be found, my friend.
You love American Alpha too.
I like American Alpha, yeah, I do. But unfortunately, they're cold as ice, as they say. As far as
cold as ice.
Yeah. Sorry. As far as being over or being interesting, so they kind of took them out of the equation. So it's unfortunate. Hopefully, they can find their way back into some things here. Maybe the long term plan is to get them back involved. They're just kind of keeping them out of the spotlight here. I don't know, but
I was blaming a lot of American Alpha for not getting over on American Alpha, but now seeing the way everything's kind of been, the cards have been unfolding. Is that right? No, the plans have been unfolding. Maybe. Anyway,
the tablecloth has been unfolding.
Yeah, the bed sheets. Now I see how things are playing out. I don't really blame American Alpha as much as I do the lack of a direction that they had. They didn't get a lot of chance to talk, and when they did, I think they were bad. Obviously, talking isn't their strong suit. They're great in the ring, but you haven't seen them unless they come back as heels. But I don't know. They need something fresh for American Alpha.
They do. So we got 2 matches left. So
let's talk about Randy Orton's match.
No, that's for the end, bro.
Are you kidding me?
It's the most important match on the card.
No, the most important match on the card is Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles.
No. Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles for the U.S. title.
I'm not talking about this yet. I'm going to wait.
You going to wait?
I'm gonna let you give your opinion, and then we're going to go to Randy Orton.
It's going to confuse anybody.
Yeah, right. Let's just go with KO.
So KO versus AJ Styles. AJ Styles won a triple threat match to earn a shot at the U.S. title. In between that, Kevin Owens dropped the title to Chris Jericho and won it back on SmackDown after the last pay-per-view, which was Payback, I think. I don't want to get into that whole schmagegi again, but
nice.
I'll say Owens will retain the U.S. title on Sunday. He'll do something to cheat or whatever, use the title in some capacity, and he will keep the title.
Well, there's 2 singles titles on SmackDown. One of them has been getting defended in tournaments and number 1 contenders matches to earn a right to face the champion, and the other one was not getting defended and was in a House of Horrors match. I'll let you figure out which one's more important. To me, the main title on SmackDown right now is the U.S. Heavyweight title. Kevin Owens has done a great job as champion. You have guys like AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin going for that title, and you have I don't have a problem with Jinder Mahal. I really don't. I actually really like what they've done with him. I like the Bollywood Boys are no longer the Bollywood Boys, now the Singh brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what they've done with Jinder Mahal, and they've shown him to be a competent, adversary for Randy Orton. That's fine, but the heat is around the U.S. Heavyweight title. So I think to me this match means more than the main event does. But I think you're going to put on AJ Styles, and I think it's going to be. I think they might be doing something where AJ's kind of collecting titles, and maybe you'll see a AJ versus Jinder Mahal unification match or champion versus champion match. Didn't AJ and Jinder have a little bit of beef on Tuesday?
Yeah, they wrestled on Tuesday.
Yeah, they did, and they had a little. Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. And Jinder. Do you ever say that sentence out loud and wonder how you got there? Jinder Mahal pinned AJ Styles. So no, I think AJ Styles is gonna win, and he's gonna take the title. And there's a lot of stuff you could do from there, and it seems like they're kind of interchanging contenders for each title, which is interesting. So, all right, go ahead, talk about the Bollywood Boys, Joe.
Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship. Jinder Mahal won a six-way match.
Six-pack challenge, that was.
Yeah, a few weeks back, which was kind of out of nowhere. But, I won't get into the whole him getting pushed situation. I don't particularly think it's a good idea to do something like that and just kind of pluck a guy from being a jobber and then all of a sudden making him the number one contender for the biggest title in the company.
It's called enhancement talent, Joe.
I don't know about that, but they've definitely been pushing him and giving him wins over guys with to give him more credibility.
That he shouldn't be getting wins over?
Yeah, to give him more credibility, and he's even pinned Orton in a tag match, and he's pretty much stood tall at just about every episode of SmackDown since he's been number one contender. So
thanks a lot, WWE Network.
I would not be surprised if he won on Sunday, but I'm going to say that Orton will retain the title. I don't know. I can definitely see them doing it. I'm like 60-40 that Orton's going to win, and I think it's very possible that Jinder's going to take the title on Sunday, but officially, I will say that Orton keeps the WWE Championship on Sunday.
The Bollywood Boys are going to be the difference maker, and Jinder Mahal is going to be your new WWE Champion. How does that sound?
It's unfortunate, I guess would be the word I would use.
Listen, I agree with you that Jinder Mahal is out of nowhere when you have a lot of other guys that you could have put in that spot. If you wanted somebody fresh, you wanted somebody new, you could have done a Luke Harper, a Baron Corbin, a Sami Zayn, hell, Nakamura, Dolph Ziggler. Any of those guys could have been pushed in the main event picture. But if you're going to do it with Jinder Mahal, they did it right. They had him win a match to earn it. It wasn't just completely out of nowhere. They had him, upset everybody else. And they gave him the Singh brothers, a.k.a. the Bollywood Boys, to add credibility because he's not winning these matches clean by him. Like I said, he's not winning the matches by himself because I don't think that would be as convincing.
I guess my question is, why was he even in that match to begin with?
Because he won the Dominoes tournament.
Okay.
That was the storyline they were going for.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
I made that up.
I don't know. That's my own. That's one of my things, right? Is like, okay, he won the match. That's fine. Why was he even in it? Like, how many matches has he won to even earn a chance to have a title shot opportunity? Like that to me, and that match was composed of several guys who had no business being in the match. Mojo is one. Eric Rowan, I think, is another. So it just does not, like, stuff like that's where I think it's like, all right, well, he won a match, that's cool, but he didn't win any matches for like God knows how long before that. He was basically made a fool of by Gronk multiple times before that.
I totally forgot about that.
So that's the kind of stuff that, like, as far as like continuity is concerned, like that's the type of stuff that irritates me a little bit. Like, at least some other guys that have some level of credibility that you could have put in that match and it would have made more sense. Or at least they could have won the match and made more sense. But anyway, we won't get into that. It's all water under the bridge now. So
water under the old bridge key.
That is Backlash,
okay,
my friend.
I'm excited to see AJ versus KO, honestly. All right. Not a lot of...
Oh, that wasn't an audible? Wait. Meh. There we go. That's a little
really?
better.
AJ and KO?
Yeah.
Are you souring on Kevin Owens?
Just nothing really... if I look at this card...
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm not saying look at it... Oh, I didn't say that.
And I had to pick the matches that I'm most looking forward to. Or I would probably say... I'm interested to see what Nakamura and Ziggler can do.
Yep.
I'm hoping that Breezango can have a good match because I like those guys. So I'm interested in watching that match because the Usos are obviously a very good team as well.
Yep.
And then I would say maybe Owens and Styles because I feel like they could have a really good match. That's kind of where
number 3 on the totem pole.
Yeah, it's just not...
I think Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin are going to have a good match too.
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah, Sami Zayn, he bumps like a madman. We got 5 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, why don't we just tell people about House of Hardcore on Friday? before we wrap the show.
Even though we did the other pod, you're right. That's a good point. I like what House of Hardcore, Long Island, New York, the Sports Arena in St. James, Friday night, May 19th. Friday night, May 19th. Tommy Dreamer versus Dashing Cody Rhodes. Bully Ray versus EC3. Team Tremendous versus the Spirit Squad. Moose versus Dan Maff for the Hit Squad. Rhett Titus is going to be on the show. Little Guido is going to be on the show. Any other names I'm missing is going to be... Sandman's going to be there. There's so many people on the show. Get down to House of Hardcore. If you're looking for a fan-friendly environment, you're going to meet the wrestlers. You're going to see no politics, no BS, just wrestling. And I'm not going to say most importantly, but very importantly, you're going to see the All Night Long Wrestling podcast. We're going to be there. Slinging merch shirts. Slinging autographs. Joe is available for pictures. For a measly $15.25, you can get a picture with two of us. No?
25 cents, really? $15 and 25 cents?
Yeah,
okay.
Because I figured you could bring the 15, I'll bring the 25 cents.
Inflation,
yeah, that's what's going to happen. Check it out, houseofhardcore.net and at House of Hardcore on the old Book of the Faces and on Twitter. And House of Hardcore is also known for a ton of surprises. So there's definitely going to be some surprises in store for that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. I mean, so anybody who's in the New York or Long Island area, feel free to come down. I think the bell time is 8 o'clock. Doors will open, I think around 6. I don't want to quote me on that, but and you can get some opportunity to meet some of the wrestlers there and check out some of the merchandise, T-shirts.
Buy a lot of merch from us. Do the right thing.
Yeah,
make us look good.
It's a good time. We did it last September. They were out here as our first show in St. James and Long Island. Very entertaining show, very fan friendly. Lots of stuff you can do. So it's you can bring. It's family oriented. There's nothing really I think that's too hardcore or grotesque about it. So there's a lot of children and kids that were there. So families and stuff like that can go to the show, and and adults of all ages can go and enjoy it. So we'll be there. It should be a good show. Anybody who's in the area should come down and check it out.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be active on Twitter this weekend too, talking about NXT a little bit. Mostly going to be I'll be live tweeting Backlash on Sunday. So if you're
committing to that,
I'm committing. What?
Committing to that on the air.
I'm committing to that on the air.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
I'm lonely as hell this week, man. I actually the only day I'm off this week is Sunday, so I'll be able to live tweet the old Backlash. I can't promise you're gonna like what I say, and I can't promise I'm not gonna discuss mid to late '90s action adventure movies. That's what I do. I could watch one of the Scorpion King. Time Cop is something I could watch during this weekend. There's a lot of opportunity. If I'm going to be off all day on Sunday, there's a lot of Netflix to watch. So, like I said, ProWrestling.com, All Night Long Wrestling Podcast, the official home now. Damage 365 Radio Network, we are brought to you by them as always. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, at All Night Long WP, Instagram at All Night Long WP. I haven't posted anything in a while. I kind of suck at the Instagram, but there's so many avenues, man, of access. We appreciate everything, you guys. All the listens, all the likes, all the shares. If you like us for some reason, share the show, like the show, rate the show, talk about the show, cut a promo on the show. Do whatever you want to do. We just we appreciate all the support and we appreciate all the listens, man. We do.
We do.
He's the Stallion. I'm the Enforcer. Once again this week, we are tapping out.